welcome to No Story Stagnates with me, Ernie Vauxhall, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Doaa to you all. Doaa, can you tell everyone who you are, where you are, and what you're doing at the moment?
That's a pretty hard question, Ernie, to get started with. Well, I am an Egyptian person who has been exposed to worldwide diversity since I was 3. I grew up in Kuwait. I ended up visiting a lot of places in the world, East and West, during my work lifetime, which is still there, during my childhood. And I ended up working in something which I really enjoy, which is creating material and helping coaches to, expand their careers. And that keeps expanding all the time because like once you're at the beginning of the ladder, it just keeps evolving and evolving. But it's helping coaches and, coaches and business owners of coaching businesses how to, get there to their markets and hit it with success.
How do you say your last name?
Doaa. Yes, it's Darwish.
Darwish.
It's Doaa Darwish. And this is a pretty famous surname in the Middle East. A lot of countries have this surname. And since we're talking about stories, Ernie, but like my name has a meaning and it happens to have a meaning, and it would mean the prayer of a dervish.
Yes.
That's my total accident is the meaning of my name.
Right. And I want to go with that a little bit. Dervishes.
Yeah.
The name springs to mind is warlike people.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, what a dervish, can you tell us what a dervish is to you? Well,
a dervish will have a good or bad impression depending on who is, who is trying to interpret the name dervish. For example, people in general here in Egypt, if you want to call somebody who is, a mystic, and who, is not depending on logic, some people will call them, this is dervish. Right. But if you, for example, go to Sufis, dervish, Sufis, or like they're kind of people who sort of make religion become like, focus on the beauty of religion, makes it become like poetry.
Okay.
They have a big, dervishes there have a big weight because they are mystical with a meaning in that sense.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That's cleared that up.
I'm proud of my surname, whatever
Absolutely.
people think.
Absolutely. And so we go to the first question, Doaa, that I ask all of my guests. Do you know how your mother and father met for the first time? Or
yes, I happen to know. And my dad was back then working in Alexandria, and he was like, it was the beginning of his career, trying to show off his skills and prove to his family that he's the man they raised and so on. And my mom was in another city, and this city is called Mansoura, which by the way means the city that had victory. That's the name of the city. Most of the city's name have a meaning.
Yes.
I mean, that's funny. And my dad's brother, my uncle, my uncle's wife was the friend of my mom. So it was a very traditional story. Nothing, nothing dramatic about it. They just happened to see each other. Obviously, dad, he fell in love because, he's not an easy to convince man. So he took steps and took it forward from there, obviously.
Do you know the first time he saw her, where it was at, or was it a meeting, or?
It was at her city. It was at her city, at her home, actually. And it was a very conventional meeting. He went and proposed like a proper gentleman caller, and it was a very traditional setting. And the magic happened.
Right.
Luckily.
Great.
Yeah.
And are your mother and father still alive? I don't know. Yeah.
My mom is still alive, and
Right.
that thankfully, and my dad passed away back in 2017
Ah,
after 5 months of being hospitalized, where my
yes.
mom did not go home for one day. She
Right.
just stayed home. And it was a very moving phase in our lives. But he's still actually with us in so many ways, so
Absolutely.
many active ways, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel I can understand that because both my parents spent the last months of their life either in hospital or in care,
Oh,
where, to be honest, it would have been kind of, for me, maybe to just let
yeah.
them go. You know, they would give them drugs to wake them up and then drugs to put them to sleep, and they woke up, and that was no life. But so I understand.
That's something you learned after they passed on, right? Not
Yeah.
back then. Yeah, same here.
but, but actually, it's as you say, but 2 or 3 times, particularly my dad, has turned up in my dreams.
Oh, he turns up in my dreams like 3 times a week. He's
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
He's
still
good.
there. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so we'll go to the first 10 years, Doha. A
So shall I get a
story.
handkerchief and start cheering up? So shall
Yeah.
I get ready?
The first 10 years, a story that you could say comes to your head straight away. It was that much of an impact, and the lesson you learned from it.
Well, first 10 years, you say, Ernie.
Yeah.
First 10 years. Um, I think the most significant things in my life, or the most significant figures in my life from 1 to 10, were my pets.
Right.
And I had a lot of pets. And they came through with my dad's, he said he was the one who got them through, because my mom and sisters, they would not like pets at all.
No.
They were phobic.
Right.
Yeah, and like he was like, my gate. He allowed me to get all these pets. In fact, he went there and got them for me.
Right.
And I remember a lovely story. I had this little tortoise,
Yeah.
and it was really, really back then in my head like a family member.
Right.
So I sometimes, before I go to sleep, I think, oh my goodness, if all of us had a situation where we were endangered, and somebody said to me, had to let someone go, who would it be? And like my tortoise would be one of these.
Right.
And I couldn't let him go. And I was like this. He was like as
Yeah.
important as any family member. And then it was like a question to me.
Well, I spent some time with a partner. We still speak, but she's had to move on. Who genuinely told me that when she was driving, if she came across a situation where there was an adult or a human in the road and a rabbit, she'd probably hit the human.
Oh,
She would not hit the rabbit.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, animals meant that. And
Yeah, she's an
did,
animal person. She loves
did the
them.
tortoise or did the animals, did you become so confident or so close to them that you could almost talk to them and
Always,
understand them?
yes. And
Yeah,
I'd shout at them when they don't listen. And,
yeah,
I tell them it's food time, and we'd wave at each other. I mean, and we had our own language as a
yes,
child. Of course, you have a
yes,
wild imagination. So anything, I mean, your imagination builds it up for you. It
absolutely.
completes it.
Well, I actually believe we've forgotten that. I know there are still people, there are adults who still have friends amongst bears, wolves, tigers,
Oh,
lions. They've kept that communication going, that connection. So it is possible. I think we've
wow.
just forgotten it too
I
often.
think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. And this little lad, he was so strong.
yeah,
And like, I kept getting him visitors and visitors. I got him fish, and then he
yeah,
started eating the scales. I got him other turtles,
yes,
and then he started beating them up, and like he kept going on and on, and there were cycles of other things going
yeah,
back and forth, and he just kept going on and on, until there was a situation where we had to come back home,
yes,
and then my dad took him. Oh, it was
yeah,
a very hard moment. I couldn't travel with him, obviously. Yeah, I mean, a
right,
turtle
yes,
and then he took him to the aquarium of their workplace.
yeah.
It was a very, very hard separation for me, actually, but
And Yes, heartbreaking. Did you learn? And did you learn anything from that story? Was a lesson that you took with you into your teenage years?
I think, Ernie, that was the beginning point of understanding that you can speak to nature and connect to everything around you.
Yes, beautiful.
It's not just language that makes us understand each other, but like if you can connect to pets, and of course all of the skills that you learn as sympathy and all that kind of taking care of another,
Absolutely.
thing, living thing.
Yes.
It's going to teach you that much. And it's my first spark of understanding that everything around me is alive, will speak to me, will connect with me, and has the potential of doing this.
Beautiful.
It made my life much more livelier, if that has meaning. Yeah.
Okay, so when we get to the teenage years, Doaa, I normally ask for two stories. 11 to 15, 16 to 20, because I think there are two distinct teenage periods. So 11 to 15, an early story.
I think I took my childhood to later years, Ernie. I don't think I was a teenager at 11. I think I was still a child back then.
Right.
That I'm not sure if I have a story that would stand out from 15 to 20. If I squeeze my head, of course I'm going to come up with something, but something really stands out from 11 to 15, which was the I was, as I just mentioned, I was in Kuwait, and it was the Gulf War.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how I remember it. We were the night before, the evening before, me and mom, my sisters, her friends, their kids, were going out, to the park, having enormous fun, eating out, like, enjoying all of the things over there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then we all went to bed tired, exhausted, happy. And that's how I woke up. My sister goes, "Wake up. There is a helicopter on top of our house." I mean, it wasn't literally, it was flying in the sky on top of our house. And that was the helicopter of back then Iraq was, invading Kuwait. And it was for me a shocker, a big eye opener at the age of 11 about what is the meaning of war.
Right.
Because I didn't know that. I didn't know that existed even.
No.
And no, ever. And I would not imagine that this is legit. I mean, I can't imagine this is possible. I couldn't imagine human beings could handle things that way.
Yeah.
I mean, cold turkey like this. And it was a horrible scare back then. And we had to escape from Kuwait to Egypt through the longest border possible. Was through Iraq, Jordan, and then come back home.
Yes.
And it took us 30 days to, make the decision to bundle up with the rest of our families and friends over there, because they said to us, you have to be at least 30 cars. If you're on your own, you may not get there ever. Right. So we had to bundle up, to make this, kind of, unity thing to scare whoever is going to meet us. So we were like, a tribe.
Right.
And with kids, pregnant women, old people, young people, newly married couples, all of us, on the road. And our parents used to sleep in the desert, where they'd say, "Hey, careful! We saw just a couple of Scorpios right there." They had to sleep there. It was I saw new countries. I saw how politics work. It was for me like, oh my goodness, there are people who are suffering.
Yeah.
And then we got to Jordan, and the hardest part of all of this scare, the hardest part for me, because like I'm a daddy's girl. I mean, obviously, the hardest part was not the war, was not the shooting that I heard back then, was not all of this drama, was not the traveling and all that kind. And like, what do you take with you? What do you leave behind? That was another whole thing.
Yeah.
It was the part where we had to separate from our dads. All of us, all of the men had to go on ship, and the women had to fly, because like our country offered plane flights for women and kids to make it easier for them, for the kids. And the men had to come with the cars or the vehicles or whatever they need to come with through ship. And we did not have mobiles. We kept waiting when we got there to know whenever he's going to reach, if he's going to ever reach. And it took him like 2 weeks. They were like 2 killer weeks for us.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but we made it.
How did you make the journey when you said, I take it you didn't walk that Distance.
We made it
You went on planes. Sorry.
we took from Kor till we got to Jordan, and then when we got
Right.
to the other side of the sea,
Yeah.
the women and they flew off to
Okay.
Egypt. The men had to make it through sea.
So
That's
you
through
were walking. You were literally walking
through by
through.
Kor, yeah, Kor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not flying, no.
No.
And like with my
Interesting.
little head back then, when BBC and CNN came to take news reports, they'd come with a plane and then they'd
Yes.
leave with a helicopter, and they go, "Hey guys, you have helicopters? Why don't you help all of us? We need to get out of here." I'm like, that's my head as a child.
Yeah.
I couldn't. No, yeah.
Yeah. Did you make friends on that walk, or was it too traumatic? People together. Did
I
you?
made friends. I was the biggest child.
Sorry.
I was the biggest child, if you can call me a child at 11.
Right.
And I was, the leader of the kids team.
Okay. Very good. The leadership role straight away. Yeah. Great.
Yes, and of course we had some fun in the middle.
Okay. And just go back a little bit. Had you been at school, Doaa? You'd obviously been at school before then. How was school in Kuwait?
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
We had this wonderful school. It was like a newly starting school.
Yes.
And you had a brilliant principal, who I actually thanked maybe like a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Because I told her I left when I was 11. I never thanked you. And I own it. I keep thinking about you. You don't know this.
Yeah.
And she was this American lady, a beautiful role model who kept working so hard for us. She put her kids in our school, and it was again the beginning of opening your eyes to like how people interact. People will have in their heads their own discriminatory thoughts. The buds.
Yes.
Some of them will have it. Some of them will be open-hearted and be loving to everybody else and accepting.
Yes.
So you actually, when I go back, I would see now. I'd realize there were buds of how people's personalities begin to show when they're little kids.
Yes.
And it's very amusing, actually, Ernie. What do you think?
And when you got into Egypt, you were at what age? You were still 11, 12?
11 and a half.
Yeah.
Almost 12.
And how quickly did you settle into Egypt, or was that difficult?
Not quickly at all. Not quickly at all. It was a semi-cultural shock because I came from a school which had an open international culture.
Right.
To a purely, Egyptian culture.
Yes.
And there were, it was obviously a boys and girls school here and there, but when I came here, you had to stand up for yourself, and you had to teach people how to, deal with you and treat you and so on, because obviously I was coming an outsider.
Yeah.
And they all knew each other, these bunch. They were with each other since kindergarten. And I had to come and introduce myself and, prove that I'm worthy of the group. I need to be here, guys, for the coming few years. So yes. It better be fun.
Okay. Yeah, straight away, Doaa, I don't know, but I hear many Americans speak like that. You speak like an American in some ways. I'm here for a few years, so you better make it fun. That it's you hear that. I hear that when I often look at American kids talking about their past. Have you? Do you notice any American culture coming to you?
Totally, American and British and Syrian, because when we were back in Kuwait, we had a lot of Syrians.
Yes.
We had Polish kids, Indian kids,
right?
Kuwaiti kids, Gulf, all of the Gulf people.
Yes.
So I was blessed with feeling the beauty of this diversity, Ernie.
Right.
And actually enjoying the music of each different country, the dialect of each different country, culture. Yeah. And I think every culture, people who I meet in general will leave a stamp on me.
Yes.
With anything beautiful that they have with their culture.
Great.
So absolutely, totally, yeah.
So let's go into that second period, 16 to 20, Doaa.
Oh, well, a story just popped up in my head, and it was well, I started college when I was 16. I was pretty young,
Yeah.
and I had finished my IGCSE. And the story is in finishing my IGCSE because I was the youngest, obviously, in class. Again, I was a newcomer. I was moving from school to school.
Yes.
Again, struggling to, weave into the group who knew each other since forever. And I wanted to get good grades. And something in my head made me want to make it to the top that first year. Because my parents wanted me to continue in another system, and I wanted to pursue my IG education.
Yeah.
So I had to prove myself that I was totally right on spot and head on. So I really worked hard, and it was the year of real hard work and real enjoyment.
Yes.
It was working hard with enjoyment. They were all, I mean, people in my class back then, again, because I was a newcomer, they were really, cynical of, oh, look at her. She doesn't know how to make this calculation. Right. Although we were older kids, they shouldn't act that way.
Yeah.
But I kept studying and studying and studying and pursuing things and enjoying things. I had literature. It was my first year of literature.
Right.
A huge introduction in my life. I had literature and stories obviously before, but this was officially literature back then. So I had 4 A's, which was like, it was the best score in the school. Other people, 2 other kids who had the same grades were taking language, not literature, which made me unique in that sense. And it was a shock. They're like, what? You? Oh, that's ridiculous. Because I had really, smart people in my class. I'm not that smart, but I'm a hard worker. So I'm smart at things, but I have ambition, I have determination.
Yeah.
And determination is my strong point, not intelligence in that sense. No. So there are people with higher IQs who will fall behind just because they don't have my patience.
Yes. Yeah.
And second year, it seems like I like to experiment. And I had it was a steep curve. I got like really bad grades. And then third year, I just need the balance to get to the college that I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a lesson that some people will try to tear you down just for the fun of it, just for the fun of it. They don't realize how critical this is for you.
Absolutely.
And sometimes this will have a reverse psychology reaction to you, or it's going to actually pump you up.
Yeah.
Make you even, maybe if they hadn't been so pushy about this, I wouldn't have taken it seriously, but they made me want to take it seriously.
Yeah.
To prove it to myself too. So yeah, it was again an eye-opener, first lesson in my life, first true lesson that impossible things can happen.
Great.
Just pursue it.
And I just want to go back because I've remembered something you did say. The first time you saw your father again, can you describe it?
Well, you see, Ernie, because like there was a point where my dad continued to work there and we came back to Egypt. So we're always, I was always exposed to these moments of, separating, coming back, separating, coming back. These were really hard moments for me until I grew up, until I was like in my 18s, 19s, I got it. Yeah. Or I adapted to it. But this moment was a moment of, what can I say? It was a moment of rebirth. I was so scared.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like a pitfall. You couldn't know when this is going to end.
Right.
Is he going to come in a month, in a year? Yeah. Is he going to come in 2 weeks? What if he never shows up? And it was too much for a child to grasp. And we just kept praying and praying. And of course, Mom, she was, scared out of her wits, but she wouldn't show it because my mom was always like, acting like she. And she didn't want us to be, she didn't want us to, be affected to that extent. But for me, I just kept waiting. When is he going to come? Let's go and search for him. And this was, of course, impossible.
And
So
when you saw him for the first time, were you at the airport, or did someone bring him to the home?
he didn't come through plane. He came through
Oh, the boat, sorry.
the boat, and then the car back again.
Yeah.
He came driving. So he came driving.
Right.
He was all like, he was all, I mean, he needed to take a break, take a bath.
Yeah.
I mean, he said to me, he stayed for this trip, the boat trip, the ship trip. He stood on one foot because there wasn't space. There wasn't enough space.
No.
It was like, it wasn't hard. It was really hard for him.
Yes.
And I don't exactly remember what he did after he came, but I'm sure I ran to him and I gave him the worst hug ever. Like,
yeah.
How could you do this to me? Yeah. And then, And then of course, like, Mom had a great lunch, and he definitely took a rest for a few days afterwards. It was not easy.
Great. So we come on to the 20s, Doaa, 20 to 30. I've got a feeling that, I get this feeling that, again, you continued the hard work.
Well, 20 to 30, I think there were several stories, but I'm not sure which will connect to all of them.
If there's a couple, go with a couple.
Well, go with the what, Ernie?
If there's two, go with two.
Well, when I graduated, I expected life to be so easy because, all of the hard work is finished. I studied so hard. I did everything. I got good grades. I graduated from a good university.
Right.
But when I started the interviewing process and saw competition and realized that not everybody gets hired because of their, skills,
that's
and
right.
that people will judge you. That was like, whoa, people will judge me. Wow. So people will judge what you can do, or will say their expectations without any problem about what they think your potential is, which they would never know actually before they have worked with you. I got into this company, and it was Unilever, and it was hard competition.
Yes.
I had to travel just to make the interviews from city to city, and then I had to make interviews. And then getting into this corporate environment was the first time for me. I'd seen people who were with me at college who have totally transformed into the competitive, personality. Not competitive. There are people who are competitive in good ways, but like, I've seen the other side of competitive.
Right, of sure.
In the corporate, and it was my first introduction. I've always heard about corporate.
Yes.
My father was a corporate person. He was a guru in administration, and it's sort of in my genes. I grew up since I was a baby hearing administrative problems, management problems. All came in.
Yes.
But it was my first hands-on experience to see what a corporate environment is like, how people, will, these guys will be good, will stand up, will, have multiple just to survive. And corporate politics. And luckily, when I got hired, I had the best manager ever. He was the regional sales manager of Unilever.
Yes.
He was the regional. He was the not the regional. Back then he was the sales deputy.
Right.
Of the country, and he was the best. And he taught me a lesson that I remember maybe once every few days. He said to me, "Hey, what would you do when you feel if you're swimming, and you feel you're overwhelmed? You feel there's too many waves. You're sinking. You're drowning." And I tell him, "What?" He said to me, "You'd swim slower. You'd slow down."
Yeah.
So I think he caught this thing in me that I like to move fast. I like to move fast.
Yeah.
And he was like this too, but he got the lesson. So he just wanted to open my eyes and throw a seed there.
Yeah.
And I saved that. Like, yes, okay, I'll keep that for these moments.
Right.
And it was a big competition in Unilever. I just stayed for 7 months before I traveled to Kuwait back then.
Yeah.
To continue my career. But it was hands-on corporate environment.
What was the position, Doaa. What were you doing there?
I was a sales marketing. They called this back then sales marketing management training. So
Right.
I had to basically go through a
Yes.
like a tournament in sales for 6 months,
Ah,
hands-on, and then in production, and then marketing.
yeah.
And that made a lot of people in my marketing department where I'm supposed to land in the end
Right.
very jealous, because I was the only person who came from a background of sales.
Yes.
And that gave me an edge. And marketing people, they are very competitive. They don't like competition. They don't like anything, any people who come in with an edge. And
Yes.
I had my manager as my back. He was there for me at my back. So they were very competitive. They tried to make things hard for me. Like, for example, I remember a manager back then said to me, we finished our work like around 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But then he said to me, you stay at work till whenever work finishes, even if it's like 12 a.m. Stuff like this, like, crazy stuff. Like, I go, no, I don't stay in the office till 12 a.m. I'm not a deputy. I'm not a department head.
Right.
I'm a management trainee. I'm just at entry level. I don't stay at work till 12 a.m. And that was like the beginning of understanding how people will behave in a corporate environment, how corporate politics function, and who wins.
Well, you're not the first. You're not the first one to say that. Very often, people in marketing and people in sales seem to think that the one exists without the other. That one is more important than the other.
Yes.
Sales is marketing. Marketing is sales.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's where the
people would say, like, what are these guys doing? They're just totally a waste of time and money. Marketing people will say, oh, these guys, they're just executives. Without our planning, they can do nothing.
That's it.
And we're actually both are super important. I mean, what are you talking about, guys? It's obvious.
Yeah. and so, perhaps going towards the later 20s, what impact did that early start have on you? Did it make you change your decisions as to what you were going to do?
Well, it made me seeing the corporate environment and seeing how people manage things, and that it's not easy to deal with all of that level of competition.
No.
Especially that I'm very transparent. So like, it's easy for you to know what I'm thinking. But it took me to a very different direction, Ernie. It took me to the direction of going deeper into my religion and understanding spirituality. So I was going for work, but then I bounced back to spirituality.
Yes. Because
I needed something to feed my energy, to be able to actually stand up and handle all of this.
Yes.
And people who help me, people who I help, people who I support, the teams I deal with. I knew at that point I can't do it on my own.
Right.
I need something bigger than all of us to really be on my side.
Yes.
And it took me deeper in that direction, which was a revelation for me. It was an unexpected turn that happened. I had to get knocked like this to just go in this direction. And it was a lovely transformation that happened to me back then. Yeah.
So we haven't talked much at the moment, Doaa, about your social life, even as a teenager, even as in early 20s. What was the social life of a girl, a young woman in Kuwait, Egypt, and that like?
Zero. I just used to study, go out with my girlfriends Thursdays and study, go out with my family weekends. That was my social life back then as a teenager. My parents were very protective. They were really watching out for what I was doing. And it was like a protected teenage phase.
Right.
Even with all of the craziness, all of the crazy ideas I had, it was still within that.
Yes.
And it was like a safe teenage period. I did not have any major incidences which endangered anything in my life or my values. No, nothing.
Right. No thoughts of rebellion against your parents at all at any time?
Oh, rebellion all the time. Thoughts of rebellion was all the time since childhood.
Yeah.
Like, why? No, where? It's not fair and all that kind of stuff. But then they did it. They were a good team.
Great.
we were able to play it together and, you know, give me limits, what is allowed in that sense, what is not allowed. And remember, in our culture, Ernie, it's the culture itself will help you, the community will help you to be in the format, you know. So there will be a curfew there. I mean, there will be, you know, a range of activities that I can do and others that I can't do.
Right.
And then that shaped my personality later on too, when I matured. Right. And it made me understand how good this was for me, how this served me to make my life easier, for example, when I got married. Yes. Because if they had left me to what I thought was exciting for me, I mean, maybe I wouldn't have been able to, you know, hold it together when I got married, but that made it easier for me later on, actually. Can
we talk about your marriage? Married at when?
I married at 28. And it was the weirdest thing that, I mean, I didn't see it coming. Of course, I wanted to get married back then.
Right.
I wanted to get married since I was 12, actually, but that never happened. And it was, again, it was not planned. One of my friends at work, one of my connections, who was a great connection, worked with me in one of the programs. He got his friend, and he made it like they want, as if he is coming to ask me about this other program. And it was like he actually was coming to, you know, explore what are the options there. And obviously something clicked with my husband, who is Mo.
Yeah.
And it was like the following day, or maybe that same evening, I had a phone call from this connection. He said to me, hey, he's thinking about really proposing. Is there a chance for you to, you know, get introduced to him and, you know, go out, so that you can go out and, you know, better know each other to make that decision. And it was, I mean, I was the kind of person who's like one direction. If you wanna, you know, have any kind of relationship with me, romantic relationship, it's one direction of marriage. There is no other option. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 7 months we were married.
Okay. And that's coming up to late 20s. So we'll go into the next period, which is 30 to 40.
30 to 40. Now 30 to 40 had a lot of crazy stories in my life.
Right.
It was the most intense. Of course, I can't say it was the most intense, but I mean, till now, this was the most intense 10 years because of the lot of changes and transitions which happened to me from 30 to 40.
Right.
First of all, 30, I became a mom.
Yes.
That was a transition. So managing work, home, and baby. Actually, baby, work, home. So it was like that. And you know, Ernie, like when you become a parent, it's a whole new transition in your head. You just become somebody else. And the biggest story which happened to me between 30 and 40, or like the biggest I think that people could relate to, was after I had my first child, Abdil. I thought I'm not going to be having any more kids till he's 3, 4, because I know myself, I can't manage two babies together. I'm going to go crazy.
Yes.
And this is a skill, you know, people have skills to manage 10 babies, and I don't have that kind of skill, just one baby at a time.
Right.
So yeah. So when I was around 34, a lot of things happened. So the president of our company passed away. It was a family business, one of the biggest companies in the Middle East. It was a conglomerate. And that was the boss, direct boss of my father. And he was like a second dad to us. He was like the rescuer, the hero, a great personality in our lives. So he passed away younger than what we expected, sooner than what we expected. And the whole turn upside down thing happened with the company. As a result, I mean, me and my team, we decided to, you know, accept that they were going to let us go, but we forced the company, or we did not give them a choice about taking our unemployment. What do you call it, Ernie? It's the, is it called the unemployment? No, the benefits, the benefits.
Absolutely.
Shrinks. They actually decided to get rid of all the middle managers. They couldn't afford their salaries.
Right.
So if the middle managers had teams with big salaries, they wanted to get rid of these two. And
Yes.
this was my case. So um, like in the same month where I just took off from the company, I realized that I was pregnant again. And I had started my new company, my
Yes.
new website. I started my new website like a couple of weeks before leaving my old company.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, see, look, I got pregnant in this critical time. Yes, yes. It's just God means that wants me to be distracted in something beautiful. See, it's lovely. And then, like my first pregnancy was perfect. So I didn't see anything coming. 2 months in, 4 months, 2 weeks in, 4 weeks in, I realized that there was a problem and that the doctor, he couldn't hear the gynecologist, he couldn't hear a heartbeat. And that was like, is that possible? Is that even possible in life?
Yes.
And it was a very traumatic experience for me.
Oh, sure.
I had my first miscarriage. I did not see that coming at all, at all. No. It wasn't even an option. It wasn't even a fear in my head. It wasn't there. Because my first pregnancy was so easy, so simple. And it was like, like a big hit to me.
Of course.
Like you'd think your body, it can do things and you wouldn't know your body can do other things. And this was like, what did I do wrong? Like it was a mix of guilt, fear, not understanding, confusion, anger. But then I just thought I should think about this and I should realize that this is something that has to be for the good.
Yes.
Because I do believe in that anything that happens to me in my life is God's plan. And God's plan has to be good. So I just waited and waited. A couple of years later, I got pregnant again. So woohoo! So like, this time it's gonna turn out right. Yahoo! So I'm ready, happy, excited. And then I couldn't believe that was happening. But again, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, 6 weeks in, no heartbeat. And the painful part about this is that I insisted to wait till 3 months in.
Right.
Because I wanted to make sure when the doctor said, you don't need to wait for that long. I thought, no, but you don't know. You never know. Maybe you can't hear it well. Something is wrong with the position of the embryo or something. No heartbeat till 12 weeks.
Right.
Again, a painful,
of course,
psychologically and emotionally, because I even like took it the hard way. People can have miscarriage and go and have like, something like a surgery, and people can just have it the natural way. I chose the natural way, was the longest, hardest, way possible, life-threatening almost. So back then, life-threatening.
Yes,
it was real.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And you just move from fear to fear. When a woman gets pregnant, and all of the women who are watching us will relate. You move from the fear of, is the baby okay, to, am I going to make it?
Right.
And both fears are horrible in that sense. So, okay, my family supported me emotionally, and things went on. I got busy with work. I just, nursed myself at work. I made life full of things which, distracted me. And then like 2 years later, I got pregnant again. So I thought, third time has to work out. I was good and patient for 2 good times. Third time, it will work out, no question. I changed my doctor, I changed my medicines, everything.
Yes.
And they said to me back then, which is a crazy thing, that you would always, lessons learned, the doctors may not know anything about your body. So they would totally like miss the point. So they told me, yes, you need to take these injections because maybe it was all about things which clot in your uterus. And and the third pregnancy was really hard. I had to shoot injections to myself every day. And, now I'm doing everything right. I realized the problem. I'm doing everything right. 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and no heartbeat. And that was like really taking my heart down back then. Of course. Because this is the point where the pain was. I could see I'm going to have another baby, but this was not happening. And I didn't know what went wrong. I had consultations from people in UK. I had consultations from people in several countries, from the best doctors. And they said to me, we couldn't see why this is happening. This shouldn't be happening. We don't understand why. They just hands down. We don't know why. So that was put off. And then my heart was really, you know,
of course,
going down for this, like three babies.
Yeah.
And then another thing happened, which, you know, my dad and the story I was telling you, he had a very good health. He was a strong man. He was 82. And, but obviously had some underlying issues that he didn't know about. And after the hospitalization, after he passed away, which was horrendous, it was like a, you know, storm to our emotional and psychological well-being. But then I said to my husband, hey, wait, we're not going to be trying again, because the doctor said to me, you can be exposed to this again and again until it works out. We don't know why it's not happening. So we don't know why it may happen.
Right.
So I told him, I'm not ready for another. This is going to take energy and psychological strength. Just let us, you know, hold up a little bit and then try again. And my dad passed away in May. In July, that was the conversation in June, late June. July, I realized that my body doesn't feel right again. And then, oops, I'm pregnant again. And then but that time, like, you know, I didn't have high hopes. I mean, I was just neutral. I ignored that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
I went on. And to tell you a funny story, back then, Ernie, I was playing this cards game. I have a friend who gave me this cards game. And one of the questions was a cards questions game. And one of the questions were, what do you think that will never happen in your life that you want so badly? And then back then my husband said to me, to have a daughter. And ironically, I was pregnant then. That was the time when I was actually pregnant in my early weeks with a daughter.
Right.
And that said to me, I mean, I always remind him of that moment. Never, ever, ever say, I think this will never happen to me. Don't you dare.
Yeah.
It was like a true moment in life. And amazingly, there was an incident which happened similar to the other incidences.
Yes.
I thought I was miscarrying again.
Yes.
My husband was beginning to, you know, I start to feel his heart breaking again. I told him, hey, I can't do any heartbreaking at that moment. Let's just, we did it before. We managed before. We'll manage as we did before. I just shut down my emotional side at that point. I went to the doctor and I said to her, hey, this is happening. And obviously it's happening again and da-da-da. And all I could think of at that moment was the moment where my dad's heartbeat when I was at hospital, because I was with him at the last moments of his life.
Right.
His heart started to stop. And then I thought, that's not going to be harder than that.
No.
And I couldn't just think of that moment. The doctor was checking me. She put the sonar and then she goes, oh, there's a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And the doctor was screaming and we both were screaming. And we went, I took my husband, Mo and Abdul, they were waiting outside. I told them I don't want anybody to come in with me. And we just went to scream, hey, come in.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest moment. It was the happiest moment.
Yeah.
This was a miracle. And you know, there were things in life that would show you miracles. God would show you miracles. And there was a reason and a wisdom that he chose that moment to be the moment and all of the other moments not to be the moment.
Yes.
I needed distraction, particularly at that time of my life. That was the hardest time where I really needed that to happen.
Yes.
And it was a baby. And my daughter popped out 9 months later. And here we go. That was,
What's your daughter's name, by the way?
Her name is Haya.
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 And that means?
Pretty woman.
There you go.
She better be pretty after all of the hassle.
Yeah. Lovely. So are you sort of mid-30s or late 30s now?
Early 40s.
Early 40s.
Why do I have to say this on air, Ernie? I'm early 20s. Oh,
of course. No, I mean, the thought that came into my head as you were telling me those stories, Doaa, is that when we first came on, you had a smile on your face all the time. And so obviously those stories, although they've left that deep impression on you, have not changed your attitudes, your love of life.
Yeah, it's a big blessing, Ernie. I don't know if everybody realizes how far life is a blessing.
Yes.
And maybe I think about this every day, how far it's a blessing to be able to move your eyes or speak, or sit up and when you wake up in the morning, or even if you can't sit up, to have consciousness, to think.
Yes.
So I mean, because I've been into so many hard moments, I know how far a blessing it is to just be able to sit on the sofa, have a cup of coffee in your hand, and watch TV. That's a big blessing.
Yeah. Well, you must know the blessing of just being able to, in the morning, open your eyes. If your eyes are open, the rest of the day's yours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. So I can't imagine you're much over 50 now, huh? So the last couple of years, how have they been?
COVID years?
In your 40s.
Well, obviously last year was COVID year. It was a COVID year. And the year before I was actually, it was a transition to COVID almost. It was because it was not easy either. I was trying to transition my baby, my toddler, not baby, to her school years. She was still, transitioning. So it was not easy for me to try to juggle work and dealing with the baby. But when COVID came in, and this is a thing that I share with many friends who think alike. It was not the biggest scare in my life.
No.
And actually, I thought, oh, maybe when that happens, people will start thinking about the blessings that they have in their life. People who will get affected by COVID and who will be hurt or will unfortunately pass on.
Yes.
In my belief, they were going to pass on it that day anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's for their good, for some way, somehow, only the way God knows it, that happened to them. Maybe it was going to protect them from any other kind of torture or unnecessary pain in their lives. Yeah. Of course, that's easy to say because their families will not think the same way. Maybe later.
Of course not.
Yeah. And it's not easy. That's not I'm saying it. But I mean, if we cannot think with God's mind, but that's the way things will happen. He will make them in the rightest possible way.
Yeah.
And if you don't surrender to that, you're just going to be in pain.
Absolutely.
Trying to resist will make you in pain. Will elongate the pain, if you know what
Funnily enough, I shouldn't go away now. I'll try and remember it. I do a story every Sunday, and I found a book called My Thoughts on the Doaa. And it was it was the master that taught my Tai Chi teacher. And the third thought in that book is, if you can find peace in the midst of tumult, you have found the Doaa. And I think I've gone through the COVID, but I've not been afraid of it. I've not worn a mask outside. I've worn a mask when I've needed to. I've not taken the vaccine. And I think it's gave me more peace doing that. It stopped me being afraid of COVID. Whereas I see the people even now are double masking. They're avoiding me on the pavement. They're stepping into the street to get out of my way. They are stopping their children coming within 10 feet of me. It's all fear, fear, fear. But they think they're looking after themselves. They often think that I am endangering their life. And I just don't see it that way. And I've gone through the year reasonably happy, very happy, in fact. And so I think I understand, because the other point is there have been 3 or 4 occasions where I remember it was 1968 because I'd just come back from America. Now, when I went to America, there was a road in the town I live in that was one way. So you got to the road, you looked to the left, nothing coming, you crossed. When I came back from America, I got to that road, I looked to the left, there was nothing to come in. I stepped into the road, a wing mirror hit me on the chin.
Oh.
And a mudguard hit me on the knee.
Oh.
And the van stopped, and I thought, what's happened there? They said, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why didn't you look? It had turned 2-way while I'd been away.
Oh.
So the point is, Doaa, if I'd have been that second quicker stepping off the pavement, I'd have been right under the van. I hadn't even looked that way.
Oh my goodness.
So it wasn't my time. As you say, it wasn't my time. And when it is my time, that time will come. There's no doubt about that. So I just refuse to go through life being afraid when that time will come. Now, perhaps the closer I get to it, I might get a little bit more afraid of it, but we'll see. So
maybe not at all.
Yeah. Have we come 40 to 50? That is your age group now, is it, Doaa?
Yeah, I'm still pretty away from 50.
Great. So let's take the next.
I have anything against 50.
Let's take the next 5 years. Where do you see your life going?
Before I answer this question, Ernie, can I react to what you just said?
Yes.
About the story that happened to you?
Okay.
Yeah, of course, like, regardless of anybody who wishes to take vaccine, if it's for the better of human good, this is everybody's decision, and they're responsible for their decisions. We're not promoting anything here.
No.
But what would hurt our souls more? Would it be fear or would it be disease? What has the capacity of crushing
I would say fear. I would say fear is. Yeah.
What is the worst of the two dangers?
I would say fear.
I would say fear too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll probably see it for decades to come, which is where people like you and perhaps me are going to be very important, because there's going to be many, many people out there who are going to need to be coached, helped, aided through this period. And they're young people. That's the point.
Yeah.
They've had their lives disrupted perhaps much more than I have.
Yeah. And the thing is that the new trends is people with the mechanical way people are beginning to live their life, mechanical is taking away the strengths that they will have, the buffer strength when the mechanical part is hit. So when the mechanical circumstances, like when COVID comes, that's physical.
Yes.
That's hitting the physical part of us. If we don't have much buffer in our emotional and spiritual, if you don't have emotional and spiritual stamina, if I can say, what are they going to be leaning on?
Mm-hmm.
Every day's news?
Yep.
What comes out in the paper?
No, that's it.
Not going to help.
No.
That's going to scare them more.
No.
So, yeah.
This is that's a conversation I would love to go into, but I'm aware that would take us hours to go through, because basically.
I agree.
Yeah. So the next 3-4 years, Doaa, do you have a plan? Do you have some kind of vision of where you'll be?
Since the COVID, I've not built long-term plans, because I know my destination, where I want to be in the end, or where I'm aiming to go.
Yes.
So that's fixed, with COVID, without COVID, that's fixed.
Yeah.
How I want to help people how I want to spend the rest of in my entire life.
Yes.
And hope to raise kids who will help people.
Right.
That's clear for me, what I need to, my goal on helping people and continuing to help professional people and people
Yes.
who have a message and have something to help with and have expertise and have professional skills. This is fixed. This is not going to change.
Right.
But I've been breaking down my plan now since this happening of COVID into shorter term plans, because I don't want to overcommit with, for example, finishing things on particular deadlines without giving myself a buffer.
Right.
Things may change.
Yeah.
One of my family members may be getting COVID. Somebody may be needing extra attention again because of COVID. Schools may shut down.
Yeah.
So these, things which keep on changing and they cannot be foreseen.
No.
I realize that if I ignore them, this is going to make me so pressured. It's not going to be good.
Right.
On my intellectual and emotional sides. So I space things out a bit. Sometimes there will be weeks which are pretty pressured.
Yes.
But I try to make my default spacing things out a bit, having 1 or 2 major goals that I want to hit in, for example, per quarter successfully. Yes. And that's it. Just having a shorter vision, because it's easy for me to have a long vision. So building this muscle of having shorter vision, trying to enjoy each day, make my kids feel good, make them understand, make them, balance what they can. Going outside as freely as before, having education in schools as before. They're being schooled at homes remotely. So
of course,
that's what I'm really thinking of. I'm thinking deeper. I'm thinking how to make real, genuine relationships with real good people like you, Ernie.
Thank you.
And really, I'm really building on this and seeing how that helps me to achieve my bigger goal, my biggest goal.
One final question has come into my mind just as you were talking about that person you are now.
What is it?
If you went back and talked to the Doaa of 16, 17 and 18, what would you tell her?
Oh, 16, 17 and 18. This was the rebellious person. I was good. I wasn't facing anything about, real life. I was doing whatever I wanted in life. But if I went to the Doaa of after 20, from 20 to late 30s, I would really tell her, see, I told you everything's going to be okay.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It'll turn out to be right.
I think, Doaa, I think that's why I want to do these interviews, because people have got to realize that we all go through the bad times, and there will be people listening who are going through or have gone through what you've gone through, but you survived. And that means that they can survive, and not just survive, thrive.
Yes.
That's absolutely why I want to do it. So thank you today.
Thank you, Ernie.
Don't dash off.
It was nice. Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Stay there and we'll have a minute or two afterwards. Okay? Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ernie.
people.